Chapter 2, Part 2. Mama used to be skinny before she got married. Then she got really fat. I mean, really fat. Like almost 300 pounds fat. But she lost it all in the 11 months since Papa left, so she was back to being thin again. Not skinny thin, like she used to be when she was a girl, the way the twins are now, but definitely thinner. So thin, in fact, she didn't look like our Mama anymore. But I wasn't worried about her anymore because she wasn't as sad as she used to be, and she was eating again. She looked more like me and Juanita now, strong and voluptuous, but tired from working so hard. We talked about this, Odelia, Mama warned in Spanish. Unless it's an emergency, you can't come here. One more instant like this last one, and I'm out of here. Is that what you want? To get me fired? Last time I was here, I was trying to get Peter to come back home. She'd made such a scene, bursting into the cafe to wind up Mama that the girls were picking on her again. No, but the girls, I started. I don't want to hear it, Odelia, Mama warned, her upper lip getting thinner and tighter as she spoke. I've told you before, if no one's dying and the house isn't on fire, it's not an emergency. How could I convince her without giving anything away? But they're being ridiculous, I continued, blinking nervously now, because we had caught the attention of Mr. Moore, the restaurant manager. Mama tried to control her temper by closing her eyes and taking a deep breath. I mean it, Odelia. Take care of your sisters. I can't be in two places at once. This wasn't working. I was only bothering Mama, and she couldn't help me anyways. I wanted to scream at Mama and tell her that everything wasn't going to be okay, that I couldn't take care of it, but then Mr. Moore burst through the door, almost knocking us both down. Is there a problem? Mr. Moore asked, standing halfway out of the restaurant and holding the door open. His bald pink head was covered in sweat. It glistened like a Christmas ornament under the fluorescent light spilling out from the cafe. I felt like taking the cleaning rag from the apron pocket and wiping it down for him. But that wouldn't have been nice. So no matter how good it would have made me feel to do it. Oh no, Odelia just came over to pick up some money for eggs, Mama assured her boss, quickly switching to English. Reaching into the front pocket of her apron, she made a show of pulling out a couple dollar bills and handing them to me. Mr. Moore shook his head. And this is more important than keeping your job? No, it's not. And Odelia knows better. It won't happen again, Mama whispered. Normally, Mama doesn't let people mistreat her. She knows how to defend herself, but she had to act all meek and mild because Mr. Moore was a big fat slop-eating hog, and she needed this job. After all, it wasn't like she had many career options without a high school diploma. She spoke English well enough, despite the fact that she only went as far as the 3rd grade in Mexico, which was all her parents had money for. And she hadn't come to the States until she met and married Papa when she was just 17 years old. Up to now, he'd always taken care of her. When she first started working, the only jobs she qualified for were janitor, maid, and waitress. After a few trial runs, she decided she hated the other two, so she was doing her best to keep this job. She couldn't stand Mr. Moore, but she got along with the customers, and they tipped her well. Then let's get back to work, shall we? Mr. Moore raised his eyebrows. When he didn't move, he cleared his throat. With his lips clamped shut and his eyes bulging out of their sockets, he looked like a toad on steroids. But Mama knew he was about to explode, so she nudged me aside. I'll be in a minute, Mama said, taking me by the shoulders and turning me around so that I was facing the parking lot. I'm sorry, I whispered as soon as Mr. Moore was inside the restaurant again. I didn't mean to. Whatever it is, deal with it, Odelia, Mama insisted. You're the eldest. It's your responsibility to take care of your hermanitas. I can't do it all. Now, go home before I lose my job. Because I'd known how going to see Mama would turn out, I left Mr. G's without feeling one bit of remorse over not telling her what was going on. At least I tried. There was nothing more I could do when she wouldn't give me the time of day. I couldn't help but think she wouldn't get in so much trouble at work if she and I had cell phones. Money was just too tight, and calling the restaurant would only get her in more trouble. Mr. Moore didn't approve of personal phone calls, but then a cell phone would probably be yet another reason for Mr. Moore to accuse Mama of neglecting her work. Last week I saw him chew out Mama's younger coworker for texting instead of finding something useful to do on her break, like tidying up the break room. Feeling less than thrilled at having to once again take care of it, I walked back down Zamora Street the same way I'd walked up. The truth is, I needed to stall for a while if my plan was going to work tonight. So, instead of turning right on Brazos, I just kept going until I hit our old elementary school. The campus fence wasn't locked, so I was able to walk right up to the classrooms. I dusted the powdery corpses off of a dozen dead butterflies off a cement bench and lay down there on the quad under the moonlight for a while, contemplating my sisters and our rebelliousness. We were taking it too far, this rowdiness. Maybe I needed to tone down my part in it, become more responsible, listen to Mama, wash some dishes or something, or do some laundry for a change. At that exact moment, a star shot across the sky. Its sparkling light faded into the horizons as it died away, unsung, unwept. Immediately following behind it, another star fell from the sky. It went down in the same direction, then another one, and another one, and another. On and on they all went, one right after the other, all five descending in the same direction. Something told me I should hurry up and make a wish before the magical moment passed me by, so I closed my eyes and thought about the one thing I truly wanted, Papa. Yes, if I could have anything, I'd have Papa come back into our lives and take care of us. I want him to stop touring, get a real job, and be home every day like he used to be when we were young. I wanted Mama to stop working and worrying all the time. It's not like I wanted her to tuck us in at night and sing us a lullaby in Spanish like she used to. We were too old for that now. No, I just wanted to be a family again. With the longing in my heart, I closed my eyes and actually fell asleep right there on the school bench. When I woke up, I lit up the face of my thrift store watch and couldn't believe how long I'd napped. It was past midnight. 2 hours down just flown by. I jumped up and trotted past the empty lots, but instead of going straight down the street toward home, I took a detour. I turned to the alley behind our house, hiding behind the Oliveira's family dumpster. I opened my backpack. Hastily, I took one of Mama's blue dress uniforms out and slid it over my clothes. I unzipped my jean shorts and slipped out of them, shedding them like a snakeskin and stuffing them into my backpack. Then I changed into an old pair of Mama's work shoes and twisted my hair around and pinned it up into a half-French twist, an easy, well-rehearsed styling technique I'd learned from Mama, who always wore her hair that way. I completed the outfit by tying a white apron around my waist. By the time I got to the house, the lights were all out. I could see that in Juanita's bedroom, a nightlight was shining, but when I jingled the latch on the chain link fence, it went out. I kept my head down as I walked into the yard, just as Mama would. I struggled with the doorknob, pretended to look in Mama's apron pockets for the keys, and finally opened the door. I didn't turn on any lights or make any noise. Like Mama, I chose to walk in darkness. Quickly and quietly, I slipped into her bed. I didn't undress, but instead lay on Mama's bed fully clothed with my back to the door. Soon, I covered up with her blanket and pretended to snore, congratulating myself on the whole time. I was bien abuela, the queen of ruse. Not even 10 minutes went by before the bedroom door clicked open, and I heard someone enter Mama's room. But I didn't stir. Instead, I continued to fake snore. Mommy, Pita said quietly, sweetly, reaching the bed and touching her shoulders. She tried to shake me a bit, whining softly under her breath. But I snored again, loudly this time, like Mama does when she's really tired. I heard another noise, more like a rap, then another, a knock, then 2, 3, 4 more. I shifted in bed and halfway turned. In the mirror, I saw the dark silhouettes of at least 3 of my sisters locked in a muted struggle. In the darkness, I could hear their muffled grunts and then the intake of a sharp, deep breath before they knocked each other to the floor, taking Mama's ironing board with them. I clicked the table lamp on and saw Velia and Delia and Pita all tangled up on the floor. "What's going on?" I yelled. Pita wailed. "They're trying to kill me." She took a sharp breath, struggling to get free. "We are not," Delia and Velia exclaimed, even as they held her down. They had their hands over my nose and mouth. "I couldn't breathe," Pita whined, wiping at her eyes with the heel of her hand when they finally freed her. Juanita entered the room and looked from the girls on the floor to me on the bed. "What are you doing in Mama's clothes?" "Stop biting me, you little traitor," Velia spat out. She was so mad, she kicked at Pita's leg. "Ah!" Pita scooted away from them and stood up. "I wasn't going to tell. I just wanted to give Mama a goodbye hug." "You are sure you were, chismosa?" Delia scowled. "You're the biggest gossip there ever was." She turned around to give me a dirty look. "Don't kick her." I let Pita sit on the bed with me. "You should be ashamed of yourselves, treating her like that. She's a little girl, not a spy on Mission Impossible." "And you're not Cinderella, so why the stupid get-up?" Juanita threw back at me. I undid the knot in Mama's apron, slipped it off, and laid it on the bed beside me. Then I pulled the pins out of my hair and let my hair loose. It felt good to let my scalp breathe again. "Never mind me," I said. "Didn't I tell you all to go to bed?" "You were bluffing, weren't you?" Juanita's dark brown eyes narrowed in disgust. "There was no sleepover, and you never called Mama. It was all a trick to stall us." Delia got up and dusted her rump. "Well, it didn't work. We're going anyway," she announced. "That's what this little snitch was doing in here. She was going to tell Mama we're leaving," Velia said, kicking at Pita again before she stood up too. "I said, don't kick her," I warned Velia. Then, looking at Juanita, I asked, "Oh yeah? Well, how are you going to get there?" I started to unzip Mama's uniform down the back. I felt ridiculous sitting there dressed up like a waitress, even as I tried to sound like the voice of reason. Delia went to the door and blocked it, her feet apart and arms crossed like some kind of mobster. "If you won't drive us there, Juanita will. She's been watching you. She knows how to do it." "She has the keys," Velia said as she went to stand next to her twin. "You don't know what you're doing," I said, pulling my clothes out of my pocket. I peeled the waitress uniform off, put on my t-shirt, and pulled my jean shorts back on quickly. "Well, we're going anyways," Velia concluded. They walked out of the room, leaving me and Pita to stare at each other. I heard a commotion in the living room, the girls arguing again, but the front was locked and I had the only key. "They're not going anywhere," I assured Pita. No sooner had I said that than I heard the front door slam shut. "What the heck?" I walked out to the hall just in time to hear my father's old Chevy Nova sputter loudly to life. I pulled off Mama's frumpy shoes and pushed on my own sneakers. Dang it. There was obviously another set of keys to the house and the vehicle. I had no idea where they'd found them, but they had, and now my sisters were trying to drive away in a compromised vehicle without a clue as to how to handle it. Ah, you cursed. Peter followed me down the hall. From the living room window, I saw Juanita, Velia, and Delia jumping into the car. I ran out onto the porch. Hey, get out of the car! What do you think you're doing? I hollered. Juanita put her arm out of the window and waved my old canvas bag at me, taunting me from inside the car, daring me to stay behind. Then she revved the engine like a professional race car driver and stared me down. Wait for me, Peter called, leaving my side and running out after them. She jumped into the back seat. Seeing that I wasn't leaving the porch, Juanita shrugged, put the car into reverse, and backed out of the driveway. The left corner of the Nova's rear bumper clicked the chain-linked post, taking the gate with it and knocking down a good part of the fence. Juanita didn't even look back at the fence, damaged as she put the car into drive. I ran into the darkened street as Juanita peeled out. Come back here, I yelled, but they were driving off so fast I had to cut across the neighbor's lawn and through their backyards to keep up with them. Pumping my arms and legs as fast as I could, I followed the car all the way down to the corner. My breath was coming in ragged gasps, and I could barely hear the knocking engine of Papa's old car from the pulse pounding against my eardrums. Okay, I screamed. Okay, I'm coming with you. Stop, stop. They paused long enough to let me jump into the front seat, while Velia made room for me by quickly crawling into the back with Delia and Pita. Can you at least let me drive? I asked. You can drive us to Mexico, but not before that. You can drive us into Mexico, but not before that, Juanita said, gripping the wheel resolutely. Then turn on the lights, I demanded as we made our way down Main Street in the dark. If they didn't want to get stopped by the police, we should at least look like we knew that much about driving. The idea made me think that perhaps I shouldn't have pointed that out to her. Getting a cop's attention would definitely bring her harebrained trip to Mexico into a standstill. But police involvement was more of a last resort. There had to be a better way. Use the wipers, I continued. Get these dead butterflies off the windshield so we can see where we're going. It wasn't at all how I had planned our night to end, but I figured all hope wasn't lost. It was just easier to let my sisters think they'd won. However, the instant I buckled up, I promised myself I'd surrender the body when we got to the international bridge, no matter what.